Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Hannah Parrott. I'm the Marketing Event Specialist at TAPCO, and I will be your moderator today. Today, we are presenting on a technical overview of popular TAPCO solutions. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the chat box located on the right-hand side of the screen. I may interject with questions throughout the presentation, but the majority of questions will be saved for the Q&A at the end. Throughout the presentation, we will offer a few poll questions. These will pop up on the right-hand side of the screen as well. We will also be sending out a recording of this presentation along with relevant material within the next few days, so you don't need to worry about taking any notes today. If you would like to receive a PDH certificate, please send me an email after the presentation. My contact information is on the screen now, and I'll also include this information at the end. Today, we will be discussing a brief introduction of TAPCO, core technology of each TAPCO system, curve warning solutions, overheight warning solutions, high water warning solutions, pedestrian crosswalk system and enhancements, intersection conflict solutions, preventative maintenance, and then Q&A at the end. A little bit on TAPCO before we dive in. I'm sure most of you are familiar with TAPCO, but for those who aren't, we've been in business since 1953. We're a third-generation family-owned company based out of Brown Deer, Wisconsin, and we pride ourselves on our four core strengths of quality, innovation, service, and expertise. Our speaker today is Kyle Stewart. Kyle is an expert on TAPCO-made products and well-versed in TAPCO distributed products. Now, without further ado, I'll turn the time over to Kyle.
All right, perfect. So, yes, thank you for turning it over to me. Everybody that's in attendance, I appreciate your time. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to everybody and go through some of these the products that we have, different systems we got in the field, and things like that. So, as Hannah said, if you have any questions, there is the chat box to the right. Feel free to put them in there. I'll be checking that periodically. If you have any questions that you want to save to the end, obviously save them to the end, and we'll go from there. So, I've only got about I guess a little under an hour. So I should have more than enough time to get through this, but hopefully we don't get sidetracked or nothing else. So with no further ado, I'll continue moving forward and going over some of the, like Hannah said, our IWS technical products. So first things first is the LED enhanced warning alerts. This is our blinker sign. So as many of you have probably already seen in the field or maybe purchased from us in the past, it is your standard MUTCD compliant sign. It's got the standard 0.080 aluminum grade sheeting. Diamond grade sheeting is what we always have on these blinker signs. And then obviously there's 8 LEDs around a stop sign, pet sign, yield signs. I believe have potentially 10. And depending on any other sign that you want made, that will dictate how many LEDs we have. So this particular picture is clearly a stop sign, but as I mentioned, these can be anything. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be a custom sign of any kind, any size, any legend. That is one thing that's great about TAPCO is we are very on the customizable side. We can do whatever anybody wants. So as you can see within this setup, this is a standard 24/7 flashing sign. The back of it has a solar tube. Inside of that solar tube is the wiring for the controller itself, the battery, and then obviously the 13-watt panel that is placed on top of that solar tube. Then that is, again, provided brackets depending on the style pole that it's going on. We'll provide what we call an anti-vandal bracket, whether that's going on a square tube, going on a U-channel, or going on any kind of round pole. So that is our 24/7 sign. The LEDs are ultrasonically welded into the sign, so it's almost impossible to pull these off. You'll need something really hard to get them off, which we hopefully know is doing. So anyways, anti-vandal side of things is a very good point on our blinker sign. So if you have any questions here, feel free to save them towards the end. Again, the benefits of our blinker signs are lightweight. They're easy to install, obviously. The maintenance on these is minimal. The only thing you need to do is we're in the southern climate. There's not much snow, but if you are in a northern climate at any point, you got to remove snow from the solar panel, otherwise it will not get any charge. I would clean out the solar panel from time to time. That's every maybe once a year or something like that. Otherwise, it's very easy to put up and let it be. These are auto dimming, so the LEDs do dim from daytime to nighttime. We don't want these to be at full glare at night, so they do dim down. And then again, as far as years of installation, I've been experiencing these out in the field for over 10 years, and they're still operating with the original parts. So again, the longevity of a sign like this is going to last many, many years down the line. So that is our blinker sign. Again, any question on that, save them through the end or put them in the chat box. We do have beacons as well. So we do a 12-inch beacon as well as an 8-inch. So if an 8-inch is something that y'all are looking for, we can certainly provide that. We have the black housing and yellow housing, as well as the mounting arms can be black or yellow, and then the visor can also be black or yellow. So as far as the housing, we're kind of customizable there, and then as far as LED color, we can do amber or red. So those are the two main beacon colors that we see, and these are integrated into 24/7 beacons, pedestrian crossing systems like you see on the right-hand side, and as well as any custom systems that we have out in the field. So again, that is our beacon. Moving on, we are going to have our popular power options. So as most of you probably know, most of what TAPCO does is solar. We are kind of the experts on the solar side of things. We make sure that what we're providing in the system is going to last a long time with the way that it's built, but also be able to provide enough power to service many, many years, also many days of basically no sunlight, which is where we get these power solutions from. So kind of working left to right, you'll got the 13-watt solution, 20-watt, 26, 30, 55, 85, and then you obviously have 120 VAC and streetlight power. So here in the Southeast, the most popular systems that we typically see for any PET activated system is going to be that 20-watt. If you can see my cursor, I'm circling it. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's a 20-watt, 44 amp hour system that is going to give you anywhere between 7 to 14 days of autonomy. So that is 7 to 14 days without any sunlight at all. That system will continue to operate as it should. You'll also see most popular is the 55-48. That's what we see kind of around the Atlanta area, into North Carolina, parts of South Carolina, and then obviously Alabama will see those as well. So the 20-watt 44 was just released within the last year or two. So it's fairly new, so you don't see a ton of these out in the field. But what you're going to see a lot more of is that 55-48. So as far as autonomy goes, you don't lose much between the two. But again, we have these other solutions out there to use with different systems. So if we don't need to go as high as a 55-48, we'll drop you down, go to a 30-35, or go to a 26-27, and those kinds of things. So that's all dictated on the system, but this is just going to show you all the solar arrays that we have. If power is available, we'll be more than willing to do 120 volt. That's fairly easy for us. It's just a matter of the contractor or the city making sure that there's power provided at that specific location. And then lastly, we do streetlight power. So if there's tree coverage and we cannot get solar to work and there's no power or 120 volt power within the area, we can also use streetlight power, which will have a cabinet. That cabinet is tied into the light. When that power comes on for the light, it will charge the battery at night, and then during the day, the system is ran off that battery. So this is down, and we've done this a couple of times over at the University of South Alabama. So everybody's in the southern part of Alabama. These are used on campus there. So again, just another option for any customer to come in and want to utilize our systems in specific ways. So those are the power consumptions and solutions. Moving forward into our first IWS system is our dynamic curve warning system. So again, this is used at sharp curves, off highways, interstates, rural highways, things like that. So why do we install a dynamic curve warning system? What's the point of doing something like this? Well, for most highway fatalities, 25% are accounted for highway fatalities. That's what a dynamic curve warning system is trying to alleviate. So of all the accidents, that's where they happen, 25% of them. Then every day, as you can see, 30 people die on rural highways as a result of a roadway departure. So again, there's a high percentage of fatalities on our U.S. roadways, especially when it comes to exiting or entering a sharp curve. So what we do in this specific scenario, as I'll get into the next slide, is how we set these up and how they operate. So some of the factors here is, I wrote a roadway departure, 75% are a single vehicle departing road. So as you leave, you're the only vehicle heading in that direction. Then obviously you have S curves, things like that on a 2-lane road. So for us, in curve speed, 50% of those vehicles off the road or fatality crashes are speed related. So as they enter the curve too fast, most curves have an advisory speed. We will try to utilize that advisory speed in the development of our system. We want to make sure that we reduce that speed, get them to the curve safely, and obviously, onto the road where it's much safer. So, and obviously, the last thing is driver error, whether that's distracted driving or whatever it may be. That's just another factor that goes into those numbers that you see at the top of this slide. So moving on to the overview of this particular system, what you see on the right-hand side is just basically an illustration of what the system would look like at this particular curve. And it shows you the different options that are out there. So what we've done in our horizontal curve or dynamic curve warning system is we want to provide a system that's going to work for that specific curve. But we have noticed and proven, obviously, is about 50%. We've proven to reduce the horizontal curve crashes by 58%. We've got more than 200 of these nationwide. So we've proven that we can provide a system that's going to deter people from obviously passing away with these crashes, but also just allowing vehicles to slow down and make their way safely through a curve of these types. So what we can do here is we can detect and predetermine the offenders. So for particular curves, if there's multi-lanes, we can use what you see on the screen as multi-lane radars. So we can tell that vehicle in that lane that they're going too fast, or we can just detect the whole system as a whole based on radars that are facing in the direction of travel. So when they get into the curve or they attempt to approach it, we'll detect them and guide them through the curve, which then leads me into my next slide of how we do that. So we've got multiple ways of doing it. Each pattern is different. Each setup is different depending on the curve. But anything that's less than 5, we have a true sequential flash pattern. So this is going to literally guide that car or vehicle through a curve. We could also do simultaneous. So anything up to 16 signs, they can all go on at one time. So this is almost like a 24/7 flashing dynamic curve warning system. So they'll just be on all day, all time as far as when they turn on. So whether it's 24/7 or it's a radar activated or a FLIR activated system, every single sign in that curve will turn on. And the last one is a segmented sequential flash pattern. Again, this is for a 6 to 16 chevron system. We'll guide them through in a sequential pattern that physically shows them where the curve is and also helps them guide them through that curve and almost pulls them through the curve. So that is the patterns that we have. The customer kind of dictates what they feel like they want, and then we go from there and design the system. TAPCO is one of the only companies that does a ruggedized blinker sign. Obviously, what we're showing on the screen here is a chevron style sign. So if the curve, you have areas that are being hit more often, if people are going into the guardrails or into the embankment or into a concrete wall and hitting the static chevron signs right now and destroying them, and you want to put a system in that's going to be LED enhanced, a recommendation is to put in a ruggedized sign. As you can see on the screen, all the stats are there. It's an extra thick, 0.1 inch aluminum fronting, plus you've got the extra thick 0.75 inch of the high density polyurethane. So this sign is almost indestructible. I've seen them, I've played with them at our headquarters in Milwaukee, and they're heavy duty signs to say the least. So as far as anybody having any issues with these being destroyed, that's really should not be an issue at anybody's end. We just want to make sure you guys are aware that this is an option if you have an area that is being seen as having high impacts on the roadways and through that curve. So again, we do have those areas. We also utilize these in different areas where high wind is a concern. So here in North Carolina, I live in Wilmington, we've had hurricanes every single year since I've been here. So anywhere up and down the coast, if you want to utilize a ruggedized blinker sign, you certainly can. It does not have to be a chevron sign. It can be any sign that we have that we can make ruggedized. But again, the majority of these are done through our dynamic curve warning system because of the high speed that they're being impacted, but also with the wind that comes off the vehicles or the high profile vehicles that come through those areas. And then as far as, impacts through snow, which again, we're in an area that we don't see a lot of snow, but if you're in the western part of North Carolina, the north part of Georgia or the northeast part of Alabama, there may be some times where snow is there and you're plowing it off the road at a high speed, which can then fold a standard sign in half. So what we do is with these with the ruggedized sign is we concur that by allowing us to put a sign in there that's going to withhold that hit. So that is our ruggedized blinker sign. Again, just a few more stats on that. Obviously, the high winds create a baffling effect that bends and moves the sign. And then again, as far as coastal regions, hurricane region, then high-speed curves. Again, like I just mentioned a minute ago. So that's the view on the dynamic curve. As we get into preparing to decide which sign is best, as you can see, the good, better, and the best options that we have for these specific signs. Your good is your standard 0.080 aluminum grade. That's just your standard sign. Then you can get to the better, which is adding Z-bar. So we can add Z-bar to the back of any sign. Again, that's whether it's a stop sign, yield sign, ped sign, or a chevron sign. We can add what we call a Z-bar to the back, which makes it a little bit stronger through those areas. And obviously, your best option is what I just covered, going with the ruggedized sign and or adding the Z-bar. So you can really make some of these signs indestructible. But again, it all comes down to budget, all comes down to what the end user would like to do. So that's the good, better, best on some of our blinker sign solutions. Some of the system add-ons that we have for our dynamic curve warning systems is going to be obviously an advanced curve beacon, blinker sign, or static sign with a radar on it. So what we can do is in the majority of our blinker signs, the majority of our dynamic curve warning signs with our systems, we have an advanced warning. So roughly 200 feet or 300 feet in front of that curve will be a sign with a radar on it. Once that radar detects a vehicle coming towards the curve, it will send a signal up to the curve itself to activate the chevrons. So we typically see that in a lot of different scenarios. It just gives a more preemptive alert to the driver. Instead of waiting till they get to the curve, we can detect them 300-400 feet in front of the curve. So that's just one option. We can do, like I mentioned at the beginning, variable message boards, DMS blankout signs, for lane communication. So again, if it's on an interstate and you've got 3, 4, 5 lanes heading into a sharp curve, we can do what you see on the right-hand side there as a too fast for curve blank out DMS sign telling that specific lane that they're too fast. We can also do a smart weather pavement measure, which again is going to detect precipitation or anything on the roadways or in the air and the atmosphere that the road may be slick. And then you can obviously activate it through a 24/7 while that conditions are present. So those are some of the add-ons we've got for the dynamic curve warning system. And then we're not going to play any videos from what I understand. So if you guys want to watch any of the videos, feel free to have us send you the presentation and click on them yourselves and go through there. Or you can go into tapconet.com and find them there and watch them yourselves there. Moving on to overheight warning system. So this is a system that we've had in place for quite some time. We've seen a high amount of interest across the country, but obviously in the Southeast, we've got a lot of low-lying bridges, a lot of old bridges that are not built to have U-Haul vehicles and 18-wheelers coming through them. So this is a system that can prevent those hits from happening. So again, why install an overheight system? Well, we've got 10,000 plus annual bridge impacts nationally. Where that sits in the Southeast, number-wise, I do not know, but again, I know it's a high number. So again, over 600,000 bridges currently registered with the United States. 10% of those are structurally, deficient. So why do we say that? Well, if there's an impact on a structurally deficient bridge, there's a higher percentage that bridge is going to be not destroyed, but impacted more so than a newer bridge. So if you've got a bridge that's older, maybe structurally deficient, and you're seeing some impacts, this particular system would be something that we'd want to look at. Again, as you see on the screen there, 30 states have recognized bridge impacts as a problem. So if your state is in that realm, we can obviously discuss this and go from there. The average cost that we found for either redoing a bridge that's been hit, the repair cost is $300,000 to $500,000, and I don't doubt that it's higher than that in certain scenarios. So for a system that costs a fraction of that, it's definitely worth looking at and trying to implement for a specific roadway that may have a low-lying bridge. The map on your screen just again indicates major problems, minor problems, and obviously no response based on this testing here. So in the Southeast, every state's red. So again, if you have any questions about this, we can discuss it. But kind of an overview on how this works. I'm going to just put it in layman's terms for you. What we do is we design a system with infrared beams that are either directional or just kind of a one-way beam that is going to be pushed back in front of a bridge depending on that layout of that road. So we have a two-pole setup that is going to have the beams on them, a controller on each side, whether that's solar or AC power, again, placed in an area that allows a overheight vehicle to be detected, warned, and then exit. So we want to make sure that we have the ability to warn these vehicles early enough that they can exit the road safely without having to continue to the bridge and either impact it or stop and have to somehow back up and back up traffic or cause an accident that way. So each scenario is different. We would need the location. We would look at it and design a system that's best fit for that specific location. System enhancements here, we can do a connected vehicle interface. So if the vehicle has the connected vehicle interface inside of it or the onboard unit, we can do that. Obviously, the system itself, so the TAPCO made system would need to have the connected vehicle interface within our system in order to do this, but it is an option that we have. We can do overhead cameras, so overview cameras, I'm sorry, which can actually monitor the correction or the continued travel and impact. So if that's something that a DOT would want to look at to make sure that vehicle did exit or actually did continue on and hit the bridge, we can certainly do that. We can also do license plate recognition, and then we can use dynamic message boards for upstream event communication. So there's different ways that we can do these systems, but your standard system again is going to be either LED blinker signs or beacons that indicate to the driver that they're an overheight vehicle and they need to exit. So there's different ways we can do it, but that is your standard way that we go about alerting these vehicles through our system. Moving on to high water. So as you can see, we do have a lot of high water issues, especially in the southeast, coastal regions, some of the low-lying regions in our states. This is just one system that we could prevent anyone from driving through a flooded area and potentially floating away and dying. So this is one thing that we can do to prevent that. So again, why install a high water system? Well, drivers cannot see how bad the road is flooded, so they don't know how deep it is and how long it is, especially at night. And that's the biggest time that we see flooding is during the nighttime. So as you can see, 12 inches of water can sweep a car away, whether it's 6 inches, 12 inches, 18 inches. Again, it's too deep for a vehicle to go through, especially any vehicle that's going to be low profile to go through. So we will implement a system that allows us to detect that flooded roadway and alert the drivers well ahead of time. So we want to, as far as people that we want to maybe push this to, cities, obviously munis, DOTs, tunnel authorities, anybody that's got roadways that are going to see constant flooding or flooding to an extent that we want to warn them that there's going to be a flood roadway at a certain time. So applications for at-risk roadways, coastal lines, underpasses, transportation tunnels, things like that. So if you have an area that is flooding often and it's something of a concern to you and the citizens of your city, this is something that we can certainly look at to bring to your attention. So the way that this works, as you can see in the picture there is a detection pole in the middle, which is in the lowest lying area of the flood zone. Once that sensor that I'll go over here in a minute is activated, that cabinet will then send a signal upstream to every sign that's in the system, then turns them on, warns the vehicles that the road is flooded ahead, or however we design it. So that is kind of in a nutshell, again, how we activate the systems and they go from there. So we can do a lot of different things. There's different ways to adjust the threshold levels. We can do these in salt water and fresh water. So again, it doesn't matter where the flooding is occurring, what kind of water is there. We've got a system for both. And then we do have the ability to use our BlinkLink software to warn emergency services, TMC, anybody in the city, anybody at the DOT, whoever wants to be alerted for an activation like this, we can put them on the list and they'll get the alerts that the event is occurring in real time. So, which we'll cover BlinkLink a little bit later in the presentation. So this is just kind of how a pole setup looks. You've got typically 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 signs, depending on how the configuration of the road layout is. And then you've got a master pole, and then you got detection poles. So it depends, again, how these situations occur and what the roadways look like. But what you see on the screen is essentially what you would see out in the road as far as alert poles, detection poles, and other alert poles. So the left side of your screen is part of it's a snapshot from our BlinkLink So again, that is what it would look like if you had a system in place with a master detection pole and then a bunch of warning poles. So again, just a quick overview and layout view of what a system like this may look like. Moving on to this, what we do to detect a high water situation. You've got a photoelectric optical sensor, a pressure sensor, and as well as a float sensor. So here in the Southeast, the majority of what are being used is the pressure sensor, just because we do see more of these going in a saltwater environment, as well as the float switch, and then the photoelectrical is something we see only used for a freshwater solution. So with the pressure sensor, if you can imagine taking a coffee cup and putting it into a bucket of water, that pressure that is formed underneath the lid or the cup underneath the backside of that cup, it works the same way with the pressure sensor. So once that water rises to whatever level the city, the DOT, or the county sets, that will trip the system, send the signals out, and activate our blinker signs or DMS boards or whatever is out there. Float sensor uses kind of the same technology. It floats to a certain point, turns the system on, and goes from there. So these two sensors are your most commonly used for saltwater. This is what we would typically use there. And then the other one, like I said, is the photoelectrical optical sensor, which uses a red light to measure reflection. So as soon as that water touches the surface, it's going to turn the system on and then obviously operate the same. So again, just depending on where it's going in the country, that is what's going to dictate which sensor we use. But again, if you're a customer in a saltwater environment, we're going to utilize the pressure sensor more than likely, or we're going to use the float switch. And then if you're using it, in freshwater, we'll probably go this route. So again, just depends. Some of the enhancements we have with the high water systems, as well as multiple systems that we have, is our Blink Link, which is a remote activation and monitoring. So we can typically use these, the Blink Link is typically always used on high water. Whether there's cameras there or not, or illuminators, that is a different story. But we typically always have Blink Link because, again, when the event occurs, our Blink Link software will send warnings to those individuals that are on the alert list that a high water event is occurring. This is the camera and illuminator. So again, at night, the illuminators would be great. So we can put two on a pole, shine both directions. That way they can actually physically see the road is flooded in front of them. We can also do cameras. So again, the camera can send live feeds or just snapshots back to TMC or any emergency services to show that the road is actually flooded and there's not maybe a false detection happening at that time. So we've got a couple options there. We can also do connected vehicle. So any of our systems that are in the field now or going up, we're going to be CVI ready. So anybody that's on, in the city looking at smart vehicles and connected vehicle interfaces, all the TAPCO systems have the ability to do this. But specifically for a high water system, as soon as the system is tripped, we can activate our CVI interface, which then will tell a vehicle or an app that the road is flooded ahead. So again, just another option that we have when it comes to alerting the drivers that that the road is flooded. Just again, some of the advantages that we have, high water warning systems allow agencies to warn motorists in advance of the flooded road. I've already said that multiple times. Each system is customized to each location. Again, depending on the configuration of that road, that is how we do it. And TAPCO is going to provide a turnkey style experience. So we're going to build the system, at TAPCO. We deliver it to the end user. We already have predetermined locations of where the poles are going to go, predetermined locations of how we're going to do the warning, how we're going to get the radio signals out, whether we've got to go 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet, or 500 feet. We're going to determine what we need to do to make this system more turnkey. So as soon as the end user gets it, we can get it installed, get it up and running with minimal issues. Again, here's a video if you want to see it in action. I said we'll send this out at the end, or you can go to our website and check it out there. Our third system that we want to go over today is our intersection conflict warning system. We're seeing some higher interest of this system in the Southeast, especially in some of these rural highways. So the way that it works and kind of why to install this is it's going to reduce the likelihood of any collisions at a two-way stop intersection. So when you have a major road that does not stop and then two minor roads that approach that intersection. What we've done is we've proven that this particular system can reduce any severe crashes up to 30%, which is a high percentage to get people to either slow down or pay attention that somebody's entering the intersection. So again, it's ideal for sharp curves and turns before an intersection, blind driveways, on roads where speed is common. So the way in which we do utilize this system is we'll detect most of the time the major road drivers, the minor road drivers, and warn the major road drivers that someone's entering the intersection at that stop sign. So that at least gives a preemption to the vehicle that does not stop, that somebody's coming up to that stop sign and potentially could blow the stop sign, leak out into the roadway a little bit, depending on the configuration of that road. But at least it gives them the ability to be aware that someone's entering the intersection. And at that stop sign, we'll also have a radar that will turn on the stop sign. So as they approach the intersection, the stop sign pops on, starts to flash, and also sends a signal down to the blinker signs or a beacon or a blank out sign on the major road to warn that somebody's entering the intersection. So again, that is just another one of our systems that we have that has proven to reduce fatalities, reduce crashes, and make the roadways a little bit safer. School zone systems. So again, we are another manufacturer of different school zone systems. We have manual time clocks, as well as our Blink Link to schedule any time clocks that we have out in the field. So again, in school zone scenarios, these are only on during certain times. So we want to obviously indicate when those times are. So for us, we can add beacons, add blinker signs, do your standard time clocks or your Blink Link time clock to reduce speed during those few hours of the school day. So, and as you can see, these systems have proven to reduce speed in school zones by 9 miles an hour. So hopefully drivers are adhering to a school zone speed sign with beacons or a blinker sign when they are activated. The lights out notification when it comes to our radar feedback sign and or a school zone system, whether this works is essentially the radar feedback sign with a beacon or a speed limit sign. The radar feedback sign will always be on. So we're kind of transitioning here to some of our radar feedback sign opportunities, but what's happening with the lights out is that sign, that radar feedback sign is going to always operate. It'll always be telling that vehicle how fast they're going. What the lights out feature does with our Blink Link is it activates this whatever warning device we have on there when they go over a specific threshold. So if somebody's going, if it's 25 miles an hour and the city sets it for 27, as soon as they hit 27, it'll still alert, but then it'll turn on the speed limit sign or any kind of warning or alert that they're going too fast. So that's our lights out enhancement when it comes to some of those. Radar feedback signs, again, we have a wide variety of radar feedback sign options, anywhere from an 11-inch digit all the way up to an 18-inch digit. And as you can see on the screen, there's a few things laid out for you. It does reduce the speed by 20% in certain locations. Again, low speed, high speed, doesn't really matter for us. We can provide a system that's going to allow you to at least have large enough digits and create an environment to slow those vehicles down. The sign face can be white, yellow, or fluorescent yellow green. We've got options there. The built-in ambient light sensor does dim these LEDs as well. So again, during the daytime, they'll be at their brightest, and at the when it's dark, it'll be the lowest point. So we want to make sure that we're adjusting the brightness so we're not blinding people. Again, you can adjust the threshold. So if you're wanting to only turn this on when they go over a certain speed limit, we can do that. You can put them in stealth mode so they actually don't turn on, but they collect data. There's a lot of different options that you have with these particular signs. They can be AC powered, solar powered, or just simply battery powered if you're just looking to put them out there for a day or two and then pull them down and take them somewhere else. So there's a lot of ways to do that. They're very easy to mount. And then what you don't see on the screen right now is the new Evolution series that we have available. So the new Evolution series through Traffic Logics is a polycarbonate backing compared to a steel backing. So it's a much lighter unit. There is a third digit in there, as well as having the ability to have red LEDs. So not only are they amber, white, they're also red. So you have the ability to utilize multiple LED colors for certain speeds that you want to have them go off with that particular speed. So again, this is our radar feedback signs. Now we'll get into our pedestrian crossing solutions, which again is what TAPCO specializes in, as well as some of these other IWS solutions. So we'll get into the first ones here. As you can see, we've got a few different options when it comes to ped safety. So at TAPCO, we are obviously wanting to provide drivers real-time warning when a crosswalk is in use. That's kind of our goal, is to provide as much warning to a crosswalk as we possibly can as a pedestrian's entering the crosswalk. So we've got RFBs, which is on your far right. You've got a blinker sign, which is on your far left in that picture. And then you've got blinker beacons, which is a dual vertical setup there. You can also go dual horizontal and put them side by side. And then we also have in-road lights, which you don't see on the screen, but we do in-pavement lights as well. So if you wanted to do those, please get with us and we will design a system that fits for that particular mid-block crossing. With in-road lights, we also typically have RFBs or blinker signs in conjunction with those in-road lights. Popular activations for all of these are going to be your standard push button, whether that's an XAV, which is your APA, or you can do the Bulldog push button. We do either or, does not matter. We can do time clocks for beacons or blinker signs, not RFBs. And then we have obviously your passive or touchless options, which is a thermal detector, which I'll cover, and then walk through bollards, which bollards are 4-foot high steel bollards. There's an IR beam inside of that bollard at about a little under 4 feet. Once that beam is broken, it will turn the system on via radios and work as normal. So the RFB, it's obviously FHW compliant. The interim approval was the IA-21. The new pattern is the WW plus ESH flash pattern. So that's the new pattern we have out in all of our RFBs at this time. The light bars do automatically dim, just like all of our other LEDs. So again, during the daytime, they're at their brightest. And then as the sun goes down and gets dark, they will dim down, but obviously still be bright enough to bring warning to those drivers. The lenses, the LED lens is 3-inch by 7-inch. So you've got a lot of light being emitted from those light bars. There's 16 LEDs per light bar. And then as far as the light bar itself, I don't know if anybody has ordered these in recent years, I say within the last year. Our light bar has been sleeked down. So it actually looks very classy, very clean on the pole. And then the mounting bracket is a universal mounting bracket, which allows you to get that light bar up, get the bar on the pole, and then you can actually move the light bar itself and bolt it down. So it goes on any style pole, whether it's a 2-inch square all the way up to potentially a utility pole, depending how big it is. So we can give you the same bracket for any pole you want to put this system on. Getting into the optional enhancements that we have, this is our thermal detection. So this is the FLIR sensor that we utilize for all, some of our crosswalk applications that people want to use more of a passive automatic detection. As you can see, it uses heat profiles to determine crosswalk activity. So what we do is we design a custom system or 1 or 2 or 3 zones within the software of this camera to detect human movement through a crosswalk. So again, it's all based on the application. It's based on location and how it's going to be set up. But what you need to know as an end user is this is the automatic way to turn on any PED system that we have without anybody having to touch buttons. So if you have a crosswalk that's highly used, but you see the issue or you currently have evidence that no one's utilizing a push button or you have fears that no one's going to utilize a push button, this is the best option to go with. We can custom build these zones and have directionality changes so that we know that that activation is going to occur. So as you can see, it does go through shadows, darkness, sun glare, rain, snow, wind, whatever it may be. This is one of the most accurate cameras that we have to detect pedestrians as they enter a crosswalk and then obviously exit. So what this does is eliminates the false detections of pedestrians traveling in parallel to a crosswalk. So if you got somebody going up and down the sidewalk but they're not entering the road, we don't have any false detections there. Whereas if you had a motion sensor like you have when you go into a Walmart, we eliminate that part of the issue. And it also picks up the people that want to come in from an angle. So if you're at a university or near a school, kids these days don't always go straight into the crosswalk. They might cut a little bit, so we can determine when they're entering it and turn it on that factor. Whereas with a push button or any other kind of sensor, you would never get that activation in that scenario. So again, just a great addition to have. Something of interest, get with us and we'll get you some numbers on it. Moving on to our next enhancement is our Safe Walk. If you have not seen that, that's just because this was released earlier this year. So it's a newer product that we have, a newer option for any PED crossing system that we've got. What the illuminator does, it sits near the top of the pole. And then as it's activated, the lights come on as well, the RFB lights or the PED lights or whatever it may be that we have in the system. And then that will be activated through the duration of the person crossing the street. So the biggest concern and why we came out with this was because of the nighttime effect that we have with the PED systems. Most issues or accidents or deaths occur at night. So we wanted to kind of give a feature that allowed people to add to their systems and bring some light to not only the ability for the person to see that's crossing the street, but also the vehicles that are approaching the crosswalk where they can physically see the person crossing the street. So that's the greatest part about this. The other great thing is if you currently have TAPCO systems in your town or in your city, you can add these to those existing systems. We just need to change the controller or the panel in the control box, and then we'll add the lights, and you're going to be good to go. So that's the great part about this. The illuminators do not hang over the road. They're literally up against the pole, so there's really no issues for anything hanging out there. The light in which we're covering is 6 feet wide by 16 feet deep. So your standard 2-lane, potentially 3-lane road with like a turn lane in the middle, we can cover the whole ground. So we should be good there. If you've got a median setup where we can put a pole in the middle, then we'll do it that way. We'll design it so we can at least utilize different poles, different ways to get that lit up. So again, a great feature to have. We've seen a lot of interest on this, but again, it's something that we wanted to make sure everybody was aware of and to be able to implement into their cities. Again, with the crosswalk safe walk illuminator, it does actuate connectively with the LED enhancements and warning alerts. It's only on at night, so I don't know if I said that already, but it's only on during the nighttime. It works off a photo cell, so it's not operating during the day, pulling more power than is needed. So as soon as the sun gets to a certain point, these will start to illuminate and go from there. Again, and the 20 lux is recommended what we have from the FHWA for crossing 2-lane roads. So we do exceed that, and they are quite bright. So again, if you want to see a video, feel free to go on our website or just wait for this to be sent out. You can check it out there. Getting into some of the enhancements that we have. We do have connected vehicle interface enhancements, so we want to make sure that we have the ability to connect to our RSUs on the side of the road and then connect to the onboard units and the vehicles. So this is again just another option to communicate with the smart cities RSUs, DSRCs, 5G networks, integrates with all local ATMS systems. We can kind of do anything here. So just kind of be open-minded there. So we have the ability to be pretty customizable with what's being out in the field and being used. But again, as far as any TAPCO system, whether it's going to be ordered now or it's been in this field for 2 or 3 years or even longer, we can integrate that system to be CVI ready and basically give you our connected vehicle interface and implement that into the current existing system or put it into a new system. This is your standard roadside unit or RSU. As you can see, there's different modules on this RSU, whether it's Wi-Fi to connect to Bluetooth, LTE cellular network, or an Ethernet, GPS for time locations, direct short range communication to vehicles. There's a lot of different things that go into the RSU. That'll be a different world from a different manufacturer. But what will happen in this specific scenario is a pedestrian will walk up to the push button or the passive activation of some kind, hit that button. Once they hit that button, our radio, our interface will send a signal to the RSU on the side of the road. That RSU recognizes that somebody's in that particular crosswalk. So once that happens, the RSU then transmits a signal to any vehicle that's got an onboard unit or a app of some kind that connects to these RSUs. Once that happens, that vehicle or whatever application or device that's implemented into those vehicles will then obviously turn on and warn that driver that somebody's crossing the street. So kind of a simplistic way of explaining it, but that's exactly how the smart vehicle world works when it comes to our PET systems, utilizing RSU and utilizing an onboard unit. If you also have this particular picture here, is the smart rear view mirror alert. We're working on getting this to the market ourselves. And if the vehicle is a smart vehicle and it's got an onboard unit already in the car itself, it would be more of a dashboard warning over the speakers, a visual, all those things. Some more enhancements to some of our systems is our Blink Link. So I mentioned it multiple times throughout this presentation, but our Blink Link is an easy to use cloud-based system that is designed by TAPCO. So it's a TAPCO only interface. It can be used on tablets, regular desktop computers, phones, laptops, but you name it, as long as it's got internet, you can get to it. So that's kind of the greatest thing about TAPCO is it's universal. And then on the right-hand side of this cloud design here, you've got the high water, low clearance, school zone, and wrong way. So we typically use the Blink Link, the alert side, on all of these systems on your right-hand side of the screen. That's where we alert, the end user, that an event is occurring, or you're programming a schedule for a time clock. Here is just a quick monitoring visual of that blink link. So as soon as you log in, this is essentially what screen you see. Top half is like a Google Maps, shows you all of the different systems that are out in the field. So again, this particular one is Des Moines, Iowa, where you see different school zone crossings that are up and running. So again, it's just a great way to look at the map, show you historical data, show you the status of that system, whether the signal is strong, the battery looks good, the temperature of the cabinet. All of those things are being reflected through the blink link. This is the remote managing side of a school zone. So as you can see, it's got the month and the year. You'll go in there and design the programs to essentially flash those beacons, those blinker signs during a certain time of the day. And you can do this remotely. Like I said, instead of having to go out to a manual time clock, and if you've got, say, 20 or 30 of these in your city, instead of having to drive out to each individual pole, you literally just log in from your desk and save yourself some time from having to drive all over the place setting time clocks. So that is the ease and the flexibility of the blink link system. And it's very easy to use. Once we take you through the training, it's very, very easy to use and get used to going in there and changing schedules on the daily, or just setting it for the year and then kind of letting them be. So that's the one great thing. Again, with the event side, if there is a weather, something coming with weather, hurricanes, blizzards, whatever it may be, or just something with like we have now with COVID, you can go in there and change the school zones to reflect times that need to be changed per day. So that just gives you the optional flexibility. We also have the alert side, which is what I mentioned a few minutes ago, utilized with wrong way, high water, overheight vehicles, those style systems. We want to give the authorities an alert that the event is occurring. So this is just a quick view of what it would look like for an alert. With apparently that's an incoming train. I'm not sure what system that would be, but anyone that's on the alert list does receive a alert through our blink link, email, text. And I think there's maybe one other option that we have that allows you to get the alert immediately as it happens, so you can get out there and either take care of the issue, have the roadway blocked if it's a high water situation or whatever it may be. We want to make sure you guys are alerted as soon as these events happen. With that being said, it takes me into our wrong way system. So wrong way is a huge push for us at TAPCO. We're one of the only manufacturers that does it the way in which we do. We're very engineer minded when it comes to a wrong way system. We want to make sure that it's going to operate as it should and provide enough warning to those vehicles to turn around, correct themselves, and go back down a ramp instead of continuing up the wrong side. So the way that we design our systems is in a 3-zone configuration style system. As the vehicle turns and goes up the wrong way, you'll have the alert activation zone, right? That initial warning turns on and triggers the signs to flash, or whatever we've got up there as a warning device, whether it's beacons or blinker signs or a combination of both. Those will begin to flash. Your correction zone is the middle zone, which allows the vehicle to recognize they're going the wrong way and then turn around and go back down the ramp. Your confirmation zone is confirming the wrong way detection. It triggers the camera, triggers all the illuminators and alerts to the TMC and whoever's on that alert based, I guess the format, however we end up designing it. So if a vehicle reaches that confirmation point, what we're going to do is detect them. You'll have cameras that turn on, photos are starting to take, and then also any video would be taken watching that vehicle continue up the road. What that does, it allows anyone that's on the alert side is to be, they can send out messages to local authorities. They know the style of vehicle. They potentially could have the license plates to actually know who's driving the vehicle. If there's any DMS signs above the roadways, they can send signals out to those. DMS boards warn drivers coming down the main line that there's a wrong way driver approaching that area. So there's a lot of different things that we can do to allow us to alert different people. We're utilizing either FLIR cameras, which is a thermal traffic camera, or radars to turn these systems on. Obviously, we utilize our LED illuminator, high-speed cameras, LED enhanced warning devices, and then the cell modem or fiber connection for that city to send, again, those warnings back to TMC or all the authorities that are involved in a potential wrong way accident. The 3 zones should trigger, turn all the flashing lights on, blinker signs, beacons, whatever it may be. Correction zone, again, is to correct those vehicles and hopefully see them turn back down the ramp. And then obviously the last confirmation zone is when we send those alerts as that vehicle continues up the wrong way. To kind of get through the last few slides here, the engineer to order and other intelligent solutions, we do work zone safety, we do rail queuing and warning, RWIS, way stations, truck exits and runways, and then bike and trail crossings. So we do a lot of different things. And what I want to make sure that everyone realizes is TAPCO can be very customizable on the ETO side. If there is a scenario in your city, in your county, within the DOT, that you want to utilize TAPCO's ability to customize a specific solution, come to us for it. We're more than willing to work with you on getting you what you want, what you need, and we'll do whatever we can to, basically build a system that's going to get you what you need. So that's the engineer to order side of things. We also did purchase Adaptive, which is just a DMS manufacturer out of Milwaukee as well. They have a lot of different options. So if a DMS board is something that you need or are interested in, please get with us and we'll go over those specific options. This screen just shows you different models they have: the AX 9700, 87, 86, 35, 2020, and the 2000. So there's a lot of different ways we can warn people, have display boards up, whatever it may be. But again, just want to make sure y'all are aware of what we can do on the DMS side. Again, we use them for tollways. We use them for just regular warning DMS signs above interstates, toll areas, exits, cash only at toll booths, whatever it may be. We've got a lot of different options on that side of things. Blank out signs, things of that nature. Anybody from the Atlanta area will recognize the bottom right picture if you're a Braves fan or if you're just a baseball fan in general. These particular signs are right outside of SunTrust Park, which actually it's not SunTrust Park, it's something different. But they're right outside of the stadium there, indicating which direction of travel you need to go. So they look great. They're amazing sign. So just be able to, if you're in the Atlanta area, go check them out. We also do blackout signs. Again, we do partner with one of the leading manufacturers of LED directional signage. So we can do blankout signs, kind of doesn't matter, backlit signs. We have the ability to do everything you see on your screen now, whether it's for arrows, open, closed lanes, train crossings that are tied into a signal cabinet, so you can't go left or you warns the train's coming, all those different scenarios. We've got manufacturers in place to work with TAPCO and the end user to get you guys what you need on that side of things. So again, just another option that we've got within the TAPCO offerings. Here are some more blank out signs that we have available to you as the end user. Again, displays any message, multiple messages or multilingual messages. So if you're in an area that people speak Spanish or something different where that's the highly used language, we can put it in there in Spanish. Select the front style and the character height. We add full color and different symbols. We can do kind of either or. We can do logo branding. There's just a lot of different things that TAPCO can do, and our manufacturers on this side. It can be AC again or DC. So just be aware of that. And the last few things we've got for you guys is the preventative maintenance contract. So with particular cities across the country, TAPCO has preventative maintenance contracts in place to kind of, I guess, alleviate some of the needs that are out in the field with some of our systems. So we actually will have the contracts in place to come down once a year, twice a year, or whatever is in that contract to make sure we can reduce liability. We can support your staff with our industry experts on our systems because not everybody knows everything about our system. So you can get one of our techs, one of our experts down there to help you make sure the system is continuously up and running. There's no issues. This is one way to do that. We can leverage contract costs to justify your budget planning. The equipment inventory and asset management is more of a service now deal there. And then we can do customized contracts tailoring to your specific needs and budget requirements. So there's just a few different things we can do on the preventive maintenance side of things. Other popular contract lines are going to be response maintenance, replacement parts, knockdown repairs, project management, hardware consulting, furnishing, installing new products, emergency services, and annual, semi-annual maintenance checks, which we see more in the southeast of the annual, semi-annual maintenance checks. Some of the knockdown repairs, I think that's more what we're seeing. We also have everybody's with Utilicom Supply out of Norcross, Georgia. They're our exclusive distributor in the state of Georgia. So we utilize them in this way as well. They have one, or actually two techs that have the ability to do a very similar contract through TAPCO and through Utilicom if that's something that's of interest to anybody that's out there wanting to go with this route. And lastly is our Omnia Partners Purchasing Co-op. This is so if anyone has heard of that, Omnia Partners is the new U.S. Communities. Yes, Steve, Truist Park. Thank you. I just saw your notice. Truist Park is what the new SunTrust Park was. So anyway, Omnia Partners is just a way to utilize the purchasing agreement that is set in place for government, cities, counties, municipalities, state agencies, higher education institutes, things like that. So there's over 90,000 of those customers that are in there. If you have not heard of this and potentially want to utilize it, just get with me, send me an email. I can send you a line card out and give you some more information. But it allows you to purchase equally regardless of size. So if there's something that you want and you can utilize this contract, it basically takes away the rebid. There's a discounted price plus the free freight, which is great for all of anybody involved. If you're buying something from Milwaukee and it's coming down to Atlanta, that's a good haul. So the free freight is something that a lot of people do utilize and they like. But this also just allows you to have more of a easier procurement path to getting something that you may need. So again, if you need more information on this, just get with me, let me know. Again, it's a 5-year term. We just signed it earlier this year. It goes to 2025. The lead agency is Barron County in Wisconsin. And then again, it just gives you a list of the eligible agencies. So again, any questions on this, please get with me. There are a lot of different customers within the Southeast utilizing this. And again, if you're a customer that this sounds appealing to, I can almost promise you that the city or your agency is already registered underneath it. You just may not be aware of it. So again, this is definitely a great opportunity to utilize this when it comes to purchasing and maybe something that you want and you don't have to do the rebid process. So other than that, guys, some of the TAPCO advantages to finish up. Again, we are the experts in this industry. We're the ones that build these systems. We're the ones that invent the new ways in which we're going to activate or new systems that we're going to put into the field. That's our world. That's something that we are in every single day. Want to make sure you guys understand that side of things. We do understand the procurement process, which again is part of the Omnia contract per se. Power sources, like I mentioned earlier at the beginning, we want to make sure we're giving you exactly what you need for that particular system that's going in the field, which then takes you to the next bullet, solar sizing. Again, blink link, remote management. That's just another advantage that TAPCO has over some of our competitors, the ability to give you guys the warning, the alerts, the monitoring, all of that. The new 2 new SafeWalk additions, as well as the CVI connectivity with our crosswalk solutions, and then consultative approach to the process, sales, engineering, and field services. So again, guys, that's, I believe, all that I have. If we do have any questions, we can certainly get those answered. It's about 11 o'clock Eastern time, so I think the question will be answered. But again, I appreciate everybody's time. Any questions anybody has, feel free to ask them now. I think Hannah's here still with me, so we can go from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kyle. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions, please ask them in the chat box located on the right-hand side. I see we do already have a few questions pending. The first question I have for you, Kyle, is how are TAPCO's lead times currently with COVID?
As of now, everything is, I will say, quote unquote, back to normal, as our new normal is not what it used to be. But anything that's pedestrian related, any RFPs, blinker signs, beacons, that is our standard lead time is back. Anything that's going to be more custom will potentially have a little bit longer lead time. And then some of our vendor lead times have been extended. Again, that's all based on the vendor. I couldn't tell you which ones, but I know there have been extended lead times from some of our vendors. But if you're talking pedestrian standard systems from us,
Great, thank you. And can you speak to the importance of a solar evaluation?
Sorry, Hannah, you cut out. I didn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Can you speak to the importance of a solar evaluation?
Yeah, so the solar eval is definitely important in specific scenarios. If there is a potential lack of sun in a certain area, we will do a solar site survey. We either dictate that based on a Google Earth image. If I'm on site, I'll be able to tell right away if we need to do one. But again, it's all based on the location and what we're seeing in the field. If it's wide open with solar, I wouldn't even worry about it. You're going to be good to go. But yeah, it's all depending on what you see out there at that current location.
Okay, thank you. And it looks like we answered all of our questions here. Kyle, is there anything else you'd like to mention?
No, I think I'm good. Like I said, I just want to thank everybody for coming on and hanging out with us for about an hour. If you have any questions that you want answered or want to take a look at a specific system, just get with me. My email's on the screen right there. Just shoot me an email. Give me a call. Doesn't matter to me, and I'll be willing to talk to you, and we'll work through it.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. We really appreciate you attending our webinar today. As a reminder, we will be sending out all relevant links and a recording to the webinar within the next few days. If you would like to receive a PDH certificate, please send me an email. You can see my contact information on the screen now. Thank you so much again. We hope to talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your day and week.